to ensure safe pregnancy and safe motherhood?
Absolutely. I mean, when looking at making this film, oftentimes, you know, I'm a public health student as well, so I looked at all the numbers. I saw what the contributing factors were to these maternal deaths, and unsafe abortion is amongst the top 5. So in Guatemala, it seemed a perfect place to examine that particular issue. And we found in every hospital that there were entire wards filled with women who had experienced botched abortions and were on, you know, the verge of death. And, you know, and yet they were not being dealt with. There was not enough, you know, there's an unmet need that is unbelievable. The amount of women that came out for health campaigns to be seen, to have an opportunity to have contraception was unbelievable. So, you know, seeing that unmet need and then seeing the women in that kind of critical care, you know, this is a horrific thing to witness, and it makes you really wonder why those policies stay as they do for so long.
Well, Jill, an email from Zambia, and I know you want to add to this as well. This came from Zambia, which from Nawininamo Manza in Lusaka, who says the World Health Organization should set up emergency health centers worldwide. Untreated hypertension can increase maternal mortality, and in some cases abortion can be performed in order to save the mother's life. Now, I wonder what merit you see in such an idea, and again, that difficulty in the approach to an aborted pregnancy, both socially and from religious perspective too.
Well, there are two things. The 5 major causes worldwide, the playing ground is level. The same 5 things kill women all over the world, and postpartum hemorrhage is the first, but hypertensive disorders is a really big one. I'm not sure that having the WHO set up health services, emergency services, on the other hand, it would be a terrific thing if governments were to do that, and in fact, they're the people who need to do that. On the issue of unsafe abortion, you know, there are technologies which can help us avoid unsafe abortions or abortions altogether, and that's contraception. We know that there are 215 million girls and women who are sexually active who don't have any access at all to contraception. We have to fix that because this is their choice, honestly. If we could do that, we would reduce unintended pregnancies by almost 70%. I think it's 66%, which would reduce maternal death by 70% and unsafe abortion by almost 75%. Now, it's inexpensive, it's easy to use, and it gives the woman her choice.
Well, actually, it's interesting, Christy, something Jill has raised here, that this is something common to women around the world. And I think what would surprise a lot of people is in your documentary, you show that it's not just a developing world, developing country challenge. It's one that actually is in the developed world too. And tell me about the experience in the US and the kind of risks facing women there.
Yes. Well, in the U.S., you know, we had a hard time trying to figure out which was the best story to tell because there is so much, and there are far less deaths here, obviously, day to day. However, the U.S. is ranked 41st behind 40 other developed countries, and that is just unacceptable. What we decided to sort of look at and examine was women who are uninsured, and we found women that were falling through, you know, they were falling through the cracks, and there was no real rhyme or reason to it, oftentimes because of inconsistencies with Medicaid in their state, moving from state to state. And we found women, again, taking the, you know, sacrificing themselves for their families. You know, they had a couple of children, oh, I'll be fine, I've done this before, it'll be fine. Well, no, we need women to have prenatal care because if we can see a complication arising, and we can't tell, with 15% of all pregnancies, there will be a complication that we cannot foresee. But for those that we can certainly tell when there's going to be a diabetes situation. We can tell when there's hypertension. There are tests that can be taken, and so we want to invite women into a system. We want to see them. We want to have a regular relationship with them and contact with them so that we can see complications before they arise, and we don't force them to the emergency room, which is happening to many women in this country.
And Jill, actually, one of the key things that the statistics shows that it affects more African American women than it does in the white demographic. Is that simply an economic issue?
I'm sure it's more complicated than just economics, though I'm confident economics is part of it. Take, for example, in New York City, in the South Bronx, the rate of maternal death is roughly twice the national average, so it's just unacceptably high. It's not because people are illegal, it's not because the services aren't there, it's because they don't use them. They don't go during pregnancy to get the kind of care they need. You know, each of those 5 causes of death has an announcement. There are signs that you're going to have difficulty. If you don't have a trained provider during pregnancy, you'll never know what they are. So I think it's a complicated social set of issues, but economics clearly is going to play a part.
Christy, just a thought here. We've got just over a minute left. It was sad to read at the end of your documentary, you put up that by the time a person has watched your documentary, about 60 women will have died from complications relating to pregnancy, which means about 30 women, by the time they watch this show, will have died for the same reason. I wonder, what can the average person do? What would you suggest those watching this program could do to try to help?
Well, I think most important is to share this information. There are a lot of people out there that don't even know any of the statistics. So sharing the statistics and letting people know that there actually is hope, that this is something that can be done. We know the solutions. As Jill was saying, you know, political will is often the thing that's lacking the most, and that's something that we have incredible power to be able to do. Let our voices be heard. Tell our representatives in our government so that we can get things changed. I think that's, you know, make some noise is a big part of it. But then, you know, there are a lot of organizations doing a lot of incredible things on the ground. And so looking into those, you know, we're trying at Every Mother Counts to be a resource for people who are interested in making those kinds of contributions. There's a lot to be done and a lot of great things being done.
Well, Christy, thank you very much. And Jill, thank you too for the debate. And thank you for being with us with your questions and comments. If you want to know more about these issues, make sure you watch Birthrights, an 8-week series on maternal health around the globe that starts on Tuesday on Al Jazeera. And remember, you can follow our program on Twitter. We'll keep you notified on upcoming shows. And of course, you can always send us your questions and comments to pose to our guests. On the next show, fading influence as the hunger for democracy sweeps across the Arab world. How much will the United States really matter to the region in the future? Make sure you tune in for that. From me and the team, we'll see you next time. But now we leave you with images from Christy Turlington-Burns' documentary film, No Woman, No Cry.
No woman, no cry. No woman, no cry. No woman, no cry. No woman, no cry.
Business Latest is brought to you by the Qatar Tourism Authority and Catalan.